This guy, I mean, think about this. You have to put this into perspective for just a moment. He started in the Backstreet Boys when he was 12 years old. 12 years old. Think about that. I mean, that's extraordinary.
It took my innocence.
This is all you've ever known, really. What did you do when you were a little kid before you got into the Backstreet Boys? Did you always want to be in entertainment, singing, dancing, that kind of stuff, or were you just a normal kid running around riding on your bike and stuff?
I was never normal. I was actually that strange, weird kid in elementary school at the time. I was actually picked on a lot, so nobody knew.
What were they picking on you for?
Because I don't know, I was just different. I wasn't really sociable, and but you know, I was awkward, and I was always, I don't know, when it came to back home with my family, I was always trying to entertain, and I was just out there, and always trying to do. So at that time, I started doing like talent shows and, things outside of school. And so maybe that's another reason why, the kids
Let me guess, and everyone was like, "You're a homo," and all that kind of stuff,
yeah,
right?
At that time, yeah, I was just strange. So
yeah.
Anyways, yeah, no, it was. I always wanted to, I don't know, entertain in some form or another.
So, did your parents encourage you to go down that route, or were they more hands-off?
No, they actually encouraged me at the time. I was. The story really goes that I was around like 10 years old, and I was outside singing, and my mother had heard me out there, and I actually had this tree stump out, and that was my stage, and I would pretend that I was performing to these blades of grass that were at the time like millions of people,
Yeah.
at one show. And so that was my stage, and she saw that, and she decided to put me into vocal lessons and, acting class.
So then how did you actually end up in the band then, in Backstreet Boys? How did that happen?
I met the guys when I was around 12 years old. There was an audition. See, Orlando was really well known at the time.
Yeah, that was kind of like the epicenter
Disney,
of all that stuff. Yeah,
it was, the story went that I actually, it was funny. I started kind of hitting right around at 12, because I was doing acting and singing at the same time, and I went for an audition for Disney for the Mouse Club, and the Mouse Club, the ones with Justin and Brittany, all the same kids.
Mm-hmm.
They had offered me a contract. Disney did. It was a $50,000 contract. And then I
would have snatched that up.
I did not, because we actually met Lou Pearlman and the Backstreet Boys at the same time, and my mother gave me a choice between the two at 12 years old. She said, "Which one do you want to do? We can do this thing that's really, you don't know where it's going to head with the Backstreet Boys, and then this contract with the Mouse Club." And sure enough, Mouse Club about a couple years later, kind of folded, and then the rest is
Isn't that great about being a kid in a way, though, that like kids, if you were to ask me about that, or any normal guy today, go, "Oh, give me the 50 grand. That's a sure thing." But kids, they're just so, I don't want to say they're idiots
not
or whatever.
financially
but,
driven.
Yeah. I mean, kids are just like, okay, whatever. And they figure, well, I can always get, Adults realize that sometimes you have to strike while the iron is hot, and you only get one opportunity. But kids, they're so young, they think, "Oh, this kind of stuff happens all the time." I mean, that could have been a once in a lifetime offer that she had, and you could have blown it.
It could have been the wrong choice. I mean, really, no one knew what was going to happen.
Yeah, and so then the band, and you had met these guys throughout that. So they kind of orchestrated the whole band. They auditioned you and put you together with everyone.
It was kind of a little bit of both, because Howie and myself and AJ, we were in the acting circuit, because there was a pretty big auditioning circuit in Orlando for different things. And so I had met AJ and Howie a couple different times, and we became friends, and so then we met each other again. So it was Howie, myself, and AJ who really formed the band.
Bring the microphone a little bit closer to you. People are having a hard time. There you go.
Yo.
Perfect. Now, what was the musical talent of all the guys in the band at that point? Because I mean, you're all good-looking boys, which that's what the appeal is. But was there a lot of musical talent between all the guys?
There had to be.
Yeah.
Because we were really at that time there was a lot of backlash, from other artists that were out there, and we really had to. I think that was the what was most important, when we had done the process, was to find people who actually could sing and people who could actually dance, and so AJ, myself, and Howie, we did an audition, and we had to go through a process in order to actually become a part of it.
So once you start this and they put you together with everyone, what is your life then? I mean, obviously you don't become famous overnight. You guys have to work. You guys are doing stuff all day probably. But what does your life become then? Is it all vocal lessons and dance training and all of that, or what do you do?
It's funny. It's you could kind of say in a lot of ways it's a non-televised version of sort of The Voice or American Idol in a lot of ways. Just people didn't really see what happened, and it was a longer process to get to that point where it took us 6 to 7 years before we even were able to come back to the States and have a hit single with Quit Playing Games with My Heart. It took a long time, but people didn't really necessarily see. But you're right, yeah, we did vocal lessons, we would do dancing, we actually rehearsed a lot in this one warehouse, really, really hot warehouse down in Orlando, Florida, with no air conditioning, and it was at the time Lou Pearlman, he owned blimps and stuff, and so it was a place where they stored their blimp parts, and so we would rehearse.
Could this Lou Pearlman guy be any more of an eccentric character? I mean, I don't know all the history of Lou Pearlman, but just the fact that the guy owns blimps.
Well, he
weird,
looked like
right?
a blimp, and he owned a blimp.
So how many bands did they have that we may not have ever even heard of? I mean, you guys became huge. Some of their other bands, Lou Pearlman's bands or whatever, and but did they have a bunch of, or was all the energy focused on you and the Backstreet Boys at the time?
I mean, it was focused on us because he tried to put together a lot of different bands and ideas, but nothing really worked. And I guess you could just say that maybe that was the magic of the moment. The stars aligned, and we became a group, and it was just the right thing.
So
the right time.
When you put out when the Backstreet Boys put out this first record, and it sells, I don't know, like 8 million, 10 million, however many copies or whatever. I mean, at that age, you're like 15 or 16 years old or something, I think.
Yeah, I was around roughly 15, 16.
I mean, that's got to be a lot of pressure on a kid. Or was there no pressure?
No pressure, really. Well, the cool thing was that we actually were able to go over to, another story is that right when we tried to release a single in the States, it was our first single called We've Got It Going On, and it was actually one of Max Martin's first songs. And Snoop Dogg was out around that time, Nirvana was hitting, and there was no place at all on radio for boy bands at all. So we had to go over to Europe, and we were over there, just kind of blooming and learning and performing and perfecting our craft and our show. And then 2 years came, we started having huge success over there, and Europe started really loving us, and then that's when we kind of bled through Canada, through Montreal, and then bled through the French market, actually, from France too. So it was really a long process. And right around the time that the Spice Girls came out was the time that we released our single Quit Playing Games.
So when you're over there in Europe and you're 13, 14 years old or whatever, who's with you? Your parents or?
Yeah, my dad, he was with me a lot.
Yeah. Did they keep a close eye on you? Because
it's hard to keep a
man,
close
if you're a kid, you're running around, you're doing all sorts of crazy stuff, right? Yeah. I mean, and were you guys making any money at that point yet?
No. We weren't making any money, really.
In fact, even after they sold 10 million records, you still weren't making any money.
Yeah.
You had to sue them to get money.
Yeah, actually, we had to sue the label that actually hosted us was Lou Pearlman's label, Transcontinental Records, and then Jive was above them, and so we had to actually sue Lou to get money that was owed to us.
I love this. These guys go out, they sell 10 million records, Dieter. They're I mean, about a year later, after they sell 10 million records, they go out, and they're probably doing sold-out tours all over, chicks merchandising. There's a poster of this dude on every girl's bedroom wall, And they go, wait a second. All of us members in the band, we've gotten a total of $300,000 after a year. Where's all this money? Where's all this money?
And the touring as well.
Yeah.
The touring was on top of that. I mean, because we we became a touring act, and that's where we made a lot of our money. And there was promoters over in Europe that ripped us off, and managers that really couldn't do it. I mean, it was a mess. It really
How
was.
much do you think that you guys, after you sue and you get the money from the record label, Perlman, all of that, but how much of the total money that you were entitled to do you think you actually got? I mean, do you think you 50%, 20%, 80%? Out of everything you really were rightly owed, how much do you think you got in totality?
I mean, maybe 20, 30%. Yeah.
That's it?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
I mean, because you got to think about it like this. The president of the label of Jive Records, Clive Calder, he sold the company for over $1 billion. And so it was us, which really pioneered that whole pop revolution, and then Britney, and then obviously NSYNC came on our coattails.
And so he had a record label that had all those. He sells it. He gets $1 billion, and you guys are like, hey, what the hell is going on? I mean, it's really extraordinary. Do you think that you can still get ripped off? Are bands or groups or artists still getting ripped off like that in today with the record labels?
I mean, probably, but I don't know if it's. I think it's a lot. It's a lot more. It's a lot harder. Mm-hmm. Because these acts and musicians are smart. They're learning from our mistakes. The same way that we learn from mistakes of the people prior to us.
Yeah, I mean, you guys got screwed over, but you didn't get screwed over anything like these dudes back in the 50s and 60s and that kind of stuff. We're writing big hits that have survived, decades and decades, and they made $25 off of it or whatever.
Yeah, just to do the math, it's funny. Like I always rounded off. Back in the day. Every record, well, back then when we were selling in Millennium was like $20, per record.
Right.
So, and then we would sell 1.2 million records opening week.
Yeah, in 1 week they'd sell over 1 million records.
So do the math.
I mean, it's $30 million right there or whatever. I mean, in 1 weekend. I mean, a mass amount of money. Now, eventually you did start making quite a bit of money then.
Yeah.
Does that change? Do you think that changes you? You're young. You had a lot of money at a young age. From an outsider who hasn't gone through any of that stuff, you would think to yourself, or people would say, man, there's no way that can be good and healthy for someone that young.
Like Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility. And at that time, I wasn't responsible. And, so I had to learn, kind of hands-on.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I wasn't educated to the point, that I probably needed to be. And then you put power.
But the people around you don't want you to be educated, so they can continue ripping you off.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that's why I've kind of done a lot of changing.
What was the dumbest thing you ever did with your money? What was the stupidest thing in hindsight?
I had actually this one time I had this idea where I thought maybe I could turn because I love the ocean and I love the water, and I thought I could do this like boat racing stuff and maybe turn the actual sport of boat racing into a lucrative business to work
like NASCAR.
Like a NASCAR or something like that. Yeah. Little did I know the people who were involved, they're really like these billionaires who are just doing this as a like tax write-off / go party sport, you know what I mean, for fun. And I'm sitting there thinking, and I'd spend like over like $1 million on this boat and this team and stuff like that.
Right. But of course, you have a lot of great stuff that you get to do when you're a kid, and you get to see the world. I mean, there were some downsides. Your family throughout this entire time. I know that your parents ended up getting divorced. Mm-hmm. Do you think that sort of exacerbated your fame? And then your younger brother, he comes out, he starts doing stuff. Do you think that exacerbated family issues?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It exposes the things that are really there, that you're trying to hide. It's kind of easy to hide behind the family, but when it's the real issues kind of come out and the demons sort of arise. So, I mean, yeah, it really exposed us and but in a lot of ways, might have been for the good. You know, sometimes people just stay together, you know, for the wrong reasons. And, you know, but so my parents actually, they did divorce, and, you know, maybe it'll give the siblings, and it gave me an opportunity to really take a look at things, you know, the way they really are.
Yeah. By the way, Nick Carter is here with us. Nick and Night Tour is tonight, 7 p.m. at the Agora Theater. I'll give you the number for tickets here in a minute. It's Nick Carter, Jordan Knight performing tonight at the Agora. And I say this in all straightness, but I mean, you look good. There was a period now.
Oh, yeah.
Where I remember, and it sort of gave guys like me, normal dudes, satisfaction. Go, oh, look at this guy, man. Wow, did he get fat? You know?
I was fat.
But guys like me loved it, you know? What happened? I mean, did you just...
I decided to adopt a healthy lifestyle. You know, fitness, eating healthy, knowing, you know, just learning what was good for me.
Yeah.
And then obviously I got married and found someone who actually complimented me and was able, you know, she's into fitness, and we share that type of life.
How long have you been married now?
Right now I've only been married since April.
Oh, wow. So this is a brand new thing. So you're still happy at this point.
I'm very happy. You know, that's the reason why I got married. No, yeah, and that's why actually we filmed it on VH1, because we were very happy to show people that.
Yeah. And you also, you got off drugs and alcohol too, right? So
oh yeah,
that was a while ago, right?
Yeah, no, I'm sober 100%, and I enjoy it. I love waking up every day, you know, not being hungover, you know, not feeling like I get sick easy anymore, and I'm aware and in the moment.
What was the worst part of that period? I mean, were you really bad? I mean, some guys, they go to rehab or whatever, and sometimes I wonder, with this guy really, how bad was the problem?
Well, it was bad enough to I almost went to rehab, yeah, but decided, and that's why I wrote the book that, you know, I put out this book called Facing the Music and Living to Talk About It, and, you know, I basically talked about how I did it. You know, it takes... For some people, it takes them to have to go to rehab. It takes them to have to do certain things. But for me, I really wanted to take control over my life and do the change myself. And one of those things that helped me was therapy, you know, because I realized that there was something wrong upstairs. There was something kind of broken, you know, that kind of came from my family background and my upbringing.
And you were trying to fix it with the drugs.
Absolutely. That's what it is. It's self-medicating. You know, that's what you're doing. And if you it's like I describe it as a backpack full of bricks, you know, that you're carrying around your whole life, you know, and you just got to open it up and just take each one out individually.
You know, I've never gone to therapy. A lot of guys are like, I don't want to go to therapy. And I would think for a guy who's a celebrity that it would even be more frightening, because here you are, you're laying on a couch or you're sitting in a chair, whatever you're doing, and you're telling stuff to a therapist who is, you really don't know them.
Yeah.
And they're getting intimate details of your life, and who knows who they could leak that to or whatever.
And that's why you got to get a good therapist, and you have to have someone who is accountable, and you have to find, you know, people who are licensed, you know, and I mean, look, you take the chance, but at the end of the day, I mean, I haven't had any really bad experience with a therapist, and I actually know a lot of people who need to go to therapy, and I just look at them and I'm like, wow, you know, your life could be a lot better, you know, but you're afraid, you know, and, you know, just sometimes you just need to take that chance and jump off.
Yeah, I've never gone. It's a frightening thing for a lot of guys to open up like that.
And for a guy, it's also hard to accept that, you know, because I know I can't. My dad was a really strong man. He's like, don't cry, you know, you need to handle everything yourself,
right.
You know, and so a lot of men are, you know, raised that way and
can't have any weakness or show any weakness
and never show it. But, you know, that's not how it should be.
So you've been married since April.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's going well. You filmed this for VH1, you said?
Yes, I did. It's on tomorrow night, actually.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, 10/9 Central on VH1.
10 o'clock tomorrow on VH1. Watch it. Watch Nick Carter get married. It costs you $13
It's not just about getting married. It's
$13 million like George Clooney's wedding?
No. Actually, it's a great show. It really is. It's a love story, but you know, my wife, she was a normal girl, didn't really care about this business celebrity, but unfortunately, she fell in love with me.
How did you meet this girl?
So we got, I actually met her through my family, my sister and brother. Actually, they introduced me to her.
And was it love at first sight?
It really was. Lauren actually is my wife, and she's a very strong woman. And I admire that in her, and her strength. Just makes me feel protected, and then at the same time, I'm accountable to her, and she. I really love strong women, and that's who she is.
How long did it take you to determine that she was really actually into you and not just out trying to get your money
that's kind of, and that's what we talked about on the show as well. She did not like pop music at all, which was I love all sorts of music, and I love rock music as well. And metal. I love everything.
Yeah.
And she liked metal, like Slipknot and. These hard bands and stuff. And so we shared that in common underneath everything. And, but she just didn't like pop music.
She marries a Backstreet Boy. Can you believe
and
this?
she didn't like pop music. So she had to love me for who I was and not for who I am, And,
yeah.
And so that was really great.
How many girls that you've dated in the past, I mean, how many of them do you think really wanted to date you because they actually liked you as a person as opposed to they just want to date Nick Carter?
I mean, there's probably was a lot, that wanted to, date me for the, the facade,
Yeah. And eventually you're able to weed through those girls.
Yeah, they kind of just, the older I got, the more I was able to kind of see and, cipher through them. And it just really, it started to become, I became more hyper aware. I really did.
So did your dad keep a close eye on you, like with girls and stuff, when you're all the way over there in Europe and you're doing all this kind of stuff? You tried, but you snuck around.
Of course.
I mean, so you get into Backstreet Boys at the age of 12. I'm assuming you're a virgin at the age of 12, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
And then how long did that stay that way, though? I mean,
let's just say that, around 15.
That long? Honestly?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I was
years.
I'm a late bloomer. What about you?
Well, I was 15 as well, but I'm thinking
okay.
once you but I wasn't touring Europe and stuff, That's what, and I didn't have a group of guys that are in the band. You were the youngest guy in the band, right? Who, how guys are. They love to, I could just imagine like some dude who's 5 years older than him just trying to hook him up with chicks after one of these gigs or something, So it really took 3 years, honestly. It took 3 years. No kidding. Wow. And then from there, you were just off and running, weren't you? I mean,
the floodgates opened. No, I'm just joking. No, that's bad, right? Taste. No, basically, it was just, I'm in a pop band, and I'm over on tour, and let's just say, we all had,
Was it a new girl every night? I mean, this is the way that I think that your life was. I've seen these videos. They're doing their shows. There's 50,000 screaming chicks there.
They're crying.
Oh my God! They're throwing themselves at you. Was it a new girl every night? Was it really? Really? And your wife is okay with all of this past?
And I was going to go back to that. Actually, that was another reason too. Like, I can be honest with her. I can be open to about my entire life and even the worst things. And she accepts that. And that was
is she not ever worried that? How old are you now, Nick? If I may ask.
27.
So you have to think about.
No, I'm just joking. No, I'm 34.
34. All right. Yes. See, I just turned 39 last week, and I catch myself the whole time I was 38. I couldn't remember if I was 38 or 39. The older you get, you
I think
forget.
you just want to forget. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, I guess so. Does so you tell her all of these things?
Yeah, we were an open book to one another.
So have you been laying there in bed at night, and your now wife, like back in the day? I don't know how long you've known her, but has she asked you, like, come out and ask you, like, how many women have you slept with?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
And you were honest, and you told her, or you said, I have no idea?
No, there's a little bit of both. I have no idea, and also, I told her what I think it was.
What was your answer? Oh, come on, tell me. Dana, what do you think it is?
Getting it out of me.
I mean, are we talking something? Are we talking like?
You got close.
Are we talking like thousands, or what would you say, Dana?
At least 1,000. At least. He started at 15. He's 34, and
Yeah.
you're up to tour.
Oh my God, the stuff that this guy has done. So you told her. So you gave her. You don't know, but you gave her. You told her a number of what you could estimate. And what was her reaction when you gave her that
She was
number?
like, it's, expectable. I expected something like that.
Really? And she never worries that you might run off and cheat on her or anything, just because you've experienced so many women that it would be. It seems like it would be almost like doing cocaine. Like you get used to banging new chicks all the time.
You have to understand, like, a lot of that kind of came along with substance abuse and things that you're doing and not thinking, because at the time you're also you're using in a sense as well when it comes to that, and you're self-medicating. In a lot of ways, you're like there's something inside of you, like there's something missing in your heart and empty, and so you're sort of substituting for that.
What was it that was missing in your heart? I mean, was it this love of your parents?
No. I mean, love. Yeah, there was love for the parents and for the family being just tormented and separated, and then also too. I mean, it was hard for me to find love. It really was. And I did not know what was love. I have love from my fans and still do, and that is how do you categorize that love? How do you separate that love from what true love really is? You know what I mean? And so that was kind of my dilemma over the years.
I've had a lot of guys that have that I've talked to on the show that have sat right there and told me the same thing, that they got into this because they were seeking affection or love or attention or whatever it was, and then they become famous. And probably, I mean, I can't think of too many people that have performed in front of more people than you and have had more women throwing themselves at you, and they've all told me the same thing, that once they got there and they got that success, it didn't fill anything, as a matter of fact. It lined their pockets, which there's nothing wrong with that, but it didn't fill anything that they were actually looking to fill in their personal lives.
Yeah, you can get really lonely.
Yeah, and you were lonely, even though the whole world, all these chicks were in love with you. You were still lonely yourself.
Yeah, and I mean, I do also think that there was something wrong with me inside.
Yeah.
There's the things that I needed to fix.
Yeah.
And maybe in a lot of ways that could have messed up certain relationships in the past or whatever, but that is the past, and I found someone who was perfect for me now.
How's the relationship with all the guys in the band? I mean, when you guys were touring nonstop, did all the guys get along, or were there guys that you didn't really like so much in the band that just annoyed you?
No, we really all get along. In a lot of ways, they have become, more family than my immediate family.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, it's like you can choose your what is it? You can choose your friends, but you can't choose, or it's the other way around. I can't remember the family thing, that quote, but that's but. They really have been there, through the most influential times of my life, and they have all really, I've taken a little bit from each one of those guys, and they're a part of me in a lot of ways.
Have you seen them? You said that you had the drug and alcohol problem and that sort of stuff, which is expected. Every performer seems to go through this phase. Did you witness this with any of the other guys in the band, and was it different witnessing someone else going through all these same troubles, whether it be drugs and alcohol or the loneliness, the depression, that sort of stuff? Did you see that in other members of the Backstreet Boys?
Yeah, I think AJ and I really share a common thread, when it comes to drugs and alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
And I was able to see him. He's 3 years older than I am, and we were able to. And I was able to learn from a lot of his mistakes, and I mean, the three other guys, they really come from good families, and they're pretty grounded, and that was good and nice to compare to and have something to, with Brian, Kevin, and Howie. Yeah.
Do you ever look back and wish you could? What would you do differently throughout that whole thing? If you knew now, whatever the hell I'm trying to say. I mean, you're 34 years old. You're a man now. if you could go back and talk to yourself when you were 12, when you signed up with the Backstreet Boys, and you could change some things, what would you do differently?
I wouldn't do anything.
Nothing differently.
Nothing.
Nothing.
It's been a great ride.
Nick Carter is here. He's at the Nick and Night tour with Jordan Knight tonight, 7 p.m. You didn't Backstreet Boys and New Kids on the Block? Didn't you guys all go out on tour?
Yeah, we did a tour
together.
We had a super group called NKOTBSB.
And you get along with everyone in that group.
Absolutely. Yeah.
They were sort of the pioneer. I mean, I guess when I was a kid, like I said, I'm 39. Like New Kids on the Block. Oh my God, my girlfriend had their posters and all that kind of stuff, and they're really. Maybe there were boy bands before that. I don't know, but it would have been before my time. But they're kind of like the pioneers for that, I guess. And they had quite a resurgence. I mean, they and then they went back down, but then they in recent years have had quite the resurgence.
Yeah, they have. It's we share that same sort of ride together as well. It's a lot of things in common, and that's what's really cool. Being able to work with Jordan and to be on stage with him, it's like looking over and almost seeing yourself in a mirror, and so it's really, really cool. It's a great experience.
Now, we know what your girls' reaction is to the Backstreet Boys and to you and that sort of stuff, but tell me about guys, because I'm not telling you anything you don't already know. Every dude is like, oh, all those guys are homos, and all of that.
They used to say that a lot, yeah.
I mean, how do guys treat you? I mean, and it might be a little bit different now that you're older, but back then, I mean, what was it like, guys?
I mean, back then, I'll give you an example. I used to try to go play basketball on public courts, and, I would be trying to just be normal, running up and down, and I'd hear someone sing, "Tell me why," brick.
Guys try and fight you and want to kick your ass
They
or whatever.
always try to fight me, but I'm not stupid. I'm not gonna fight anybody. Like really.
So it was difficult, I guess, is what you were
hard,
saying.
yeah.
It was just your line of work made it difficult to sort of get along with guys on a mass scale.
It's changed now. Guys don't even care. I mean, we're having a lot of success. The last couple of tours that we sold over 500, 600,000 tickets, all in the United States, and there's a lot of guys that come to the shows.
Yeah.
And there's people that are just like, man, I didn't know if I necessarily liked you back in the day, but my girl made me listen to you, and now I like you. Can you sign an autograph? And I'm like, thanks, man.
Just don't let your girl get too close, because these dudes will snatch them. I mean, when you see girls around these guys, even girls that have been fans of theirs for 20 years or whatever, they
have the chance.
Did you ever do that? You must have done that. Like a guy and his girlfriend come to your show and you snatch the girl right away. You never did that once.
I respect people's relationships. That's like something I would never want to be done to me. That's yeah.
You never did it.
I'm not douchey necessarily.
Yeah. Nick Carter is here with us. We had I don't know when it was, maybe about 2 years ago. Your brother was here in the studio with us a couple of years ago. You guys seem to be in the middle of a huge feud at the time. How are things now?
I mean, they're great. He was just on my TV show with me, and
you didn't fight him this time, because the last time you guys did a TV show, you fought the day before filming started.
Back then, but he's a little brother. What do you want me to do?
They actually fought. They're doing a reality show, and I think it was the night before filming started. Unless this was all for publicity, who knows? This all could have been staged, just to get out there in the press to drum up something for the reality show. But you actually fought. The two of you fought the day before filming started, right?
Actually, it was during filming.
Oh, it was during filming.
So what happened was, and I'll give you the inside. I was trying to get some sleep. Like I'm particular about my sleep. I like to go to bed a little bit earlier, like around 12, 11, 12 o'clock. And at that time, I was really trying to change my life around. And we had rooms, and I think that the producers did this on purpose. Our rooms were right next to one another, and then the house that we lived in, it was like a really thin wall. Mm-hmm. And so my brother puts his recording studio in there. It's like he's got this like 36 channel mixing board in there and these freaking big ass speakers, and he wants to play music till 3 o'clock at night, and it was happening for like weeks on end as we're filming, and I just was at my wit's end, and I'm like, and so we got in a fight, and I'm like, dude, stop playing music when I'm sleeping. It's like freaking 4 o'clock in the morning. You got all these people coming in, and it was just bad.
Let me see. I have here's a quick clip. This is a 30-second clip of your brother here on the show. He says he will never forgive you for not coming to your sister's funeral. Watch this. Can you forgive him for not putting aside differences and coming to that?
Not entirely. No. He knows that too. He knows that. He knows that in his heart. Like I could, but like, I mean. It'll take a long time, but that's something that him and I are going to deal with on our own. And
did you guys deal with that? I mean, he was on your show, so I guess you must get along to some extent. I guess
it's hard. It's funny. I'm watching. I'm trying to do comparisons. I'm watching this Ray Donovan show.
Yeah,
and I kind of look at Ray Donovan, and I'm like, wow. He's like this older brother, and he kind of realizes, the truth of his father, of what's really happening, and all of the little siblings are kind of still like, oh, you need to forgive dad, and that type of thing. But Ray has already gone through everything and learned what is best for him in his life, and so unfortunately, there was a lot of just a lot of things that kind of were the same, in my life and my brother's life. I couldn't make the funeral, and I didn't want to come because I was actually being blamed by my father and my mother, and for my sister's death. Actually,
she overdosed. Why would they blame you for that?
I was on and I don't want to get into details because it's kind of like exposing too much. But I was on the phone with my dad, and he was sort of like, and they had just said some things to me. And this was days before the funeral. Actually, I had my ticket booked. I was ready to go. And they just said some things to me that I couldn't forgive them with. And I'm like, I really cannot believe what I'm hearing from my mother and father. And I just don't want to go. I don't want to be around these people, because it's not good for the situation. It's not good. It will escalate. It'll get really, really bad. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, I couldn't make it.
Do you regret not going at all? And hindsight being 20/20.
No, I mean, because at the end of the day, and I look at it like this: if people don't want to come to my funeral, they don't have to. I still will love them wherever I'm at. And I don't regret because I loved my sister, and I mourned her in my way, mm-hmm. and everyone has their own individual way of mourning. So if you went, you may have ended up getting in more fights. There might have been fights. There might have been things that just were. I mean, that would have taken away from.
You were portrayed in the media as they were kind of like you were a jerk, though, for not putting aside family differences and going to your sister's funeral. Do you think you were painted unfairly in a bad light?
And I mean, unfortunately, I can't. When it comes to people, I can't make everyone happy.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of where I stood at the time, and people are going to say what they want to say and feel how they want to feel, and I know what I was going through at the moment, and I know what my family was going through, and it was just really a kind of a difficult time for me, and I was conflicted. I was highly conflicted. I mean, I sat in. I remember I was with my wife, and I was in the shower for like 30 minutes just crying on the floor because I was so conflicted. I wanted to go to this funeral, and I couldn't because of everything else that was taking away from what it should be and what it should have been.
Mm-hmm. So have you and your brother, this was a couple of years ago or whatever that he was in here, have you guys smooth things over to some extent over that? Has he forgiven you? Have you explained what you're explaining to me now to him? Or
I have.
And he just doesn't see it that way?
No, I think he sees it. I think they're starting to understand that, everybody is different in their lives, and I don't know if you can necessarily blame them for doing the things that they want to do. I can't. If he wants to live his life a particular way, I accept it. That's the way you want to be, and I hope you do the same for me.
What? So you're on tour with Jordan Knight now.
Mm-hmm.
Do you go back on tour with Backstreet Boys at some point? I mean, what's the plan for the future?
My plan, our plan is actually, finish up this reality television show, which we'll have another like five weeks of this, and then finish the tour, which will go till November 22nd. I got a lot of stuff on the plate. Then Backstreet Boys is going to release our 2 theaters, and we're doing our distribution deals right now, documentary on sort of like the recording of the last record and how the band got started. It's a big documentary. It's going to be released. That's going to be roughly in late January, and then we're going to go back on tour again, record some more records. I know we've been on a 2-year world tour run, and it's been amazing. And now we got to finish up in like Southeast Asia, Australia, and South America, and then parts of Africa.
Well, it sounds
that'll
like
happen in April.
You got a lot going on, and tonight though, it's the Nick Carter and Jordan Knight tonight, 7 p.m. at the Agora Theater. I'm going to give you the number for tickets. It's 216-881-2221. That's 216-881-2221. I think they have a website for the tour. Nick and Knight, obviously KN. nickandknight.com is the website for the tour. And Nick, you've been very candid. I appreciate you coming in here and telling us all this stuff. He's had quite the amazing life, whether you're a Backstreet Boy fan or not. I mean, you don't have to be to appreciate what this guy has been through. And some of the adventures that he has had and the craziness that he's had. Mm-hmm. And, hey, I appreciate you coming in. Have fun tonight. And,
thank you. Thank you for having me. It's been a great interview.
Thank you. Love and good luck on everything in the future. I have to take a break. We will be right back on Rover's Morning Glory. Hang on.
Rover's Morning Glory.